All right, let's talk about how we can learn to be in better control of our path. Well, first off, the best way I think to start recognizing what your path is, because if you don't recognize what your path is, you don't know what direction you need to move. I think there's a couple ways to start off. Number one, recognize where your ball is starting to fly and then recognize the curvature. Again, quick review, basically wherever the club face is aimed at impact, whether it's square, open, or closed, is going to determine the initial direction the ball starts flying. If our face is square, it's going to start at the target. Face is open, it's going to start right. Face is closed, it's going to start to the left. So pay attention to the initial direction and how far it is sideways. If our ball starts flying 20 yards sideways, our face was aimed about 20 yards to the right or wherever it was. So pay attention to where the ball is starting to fly initially, because that's going to tell you, okay, that's where my face was. From there, our face relative to our path is going to determine our curvature. Anytime the face and the path, and we'll say that's the white stick right here, anytime our face and our path are in the exact same direction, the ball is going to have no curvature. Assuming we don't have gear effect, we'll take that out of the equation right here. If our face and path are in the same direction, our ball is going to have no curve. That means if our face and path are both at the target, the ball is going to start on line and stay dead straight. If both our face and our path are 20 yards right of the target, well, that ball is going to start flying 20 yards right, and it's just going to be on a dead straight line 20 yards right of the target. If our face and path are both 10 yards left, the ball is going to start 10 yards left and be on a dead straight line that stays 10 yards left of the target. So anytime our face and our path match, the ball is going to have no curvature. When the ball does curve, basically the ball wants to curve away from the path. What does that mean? Well, again, it's relative to the face, but let's say our face is along this white stick, just to keep it simple. If we make our path swing to the right of where the club face is aimed, the ball wants to hook to the left. If we swing left of where our club face is aimed, the ball wants to slice to the right. I've used this analogy many times, but I'll say it again. Imagine bowling. If we're going to bowl a bowling ball down a lane, if I take my hand and roll it to the right side of the ball, it creates left spin. The side I'm moving it on, it creates the opposite spin to the left. If I swipe my hand underneath from left on the left side of the ball this way, it makes the ball spin to the right. Same thing in golf. When I swing to the right of my face, I'm creating hook spin to the left. And when I swipe left of the face, I'm creating slice spin to the right. So by paying attention to where your ball starts, you can say, okay, that was where my club face was aimed. And once I pair that with the curvature, I have an idea of where my path is. If my ball is curving to the right, well, I swung left of my face. If the ball is curving to the left, I swung right of my club face. So now you have an idea of where your path is in relationship to this club face, which means now you can start to train it. Let's say this was the target line right here, and let's just say you're hitting a bunch of hooks to the left. Your ball's starting on line, but you're hitting a bunch of hooks. Well, what does that mean? It means your path is too far in to out. Your face is getting pretty square, but your path is too far in to out, and that ball's hooking on you. Or let's say you hit the ball on line, but then it slices to the right. Well, your face, again, is getting pretty square, but we're cutting across it from out to in, and that ball is slicing to the right. If you wanted to hit a straight shot, you got to keep your face where it is, but get your path more neutral, and now that ball stays on its line. So again, understanding your face-to-path relationship, you can start to adjust as needed. Let's look at somebody who wants to play a draw. Let's say you wanted to play a 20-yard draw. Well, first off, our face should be aimed about 20 yards to the right, and we got to make sure our ball is actually starting there when we hit it, so we're paying attention to our start line. But from there, we need our path to be more in to out than where our face is aimed. If our path is more right or more in to out than where our face is aimed, that ball is going to draw on you. Now, how much it draws depends on how far right you swing. You swing just barely right, it's going to draw, but it won't get back to the target. And if you go way too far into out, the ball is going to hook left of the target on you. It might start on line, but it's going to have a huge hook because we swung way too far into out. So basically, you got to scale that until you have the right amount of curvature. If you get your ball started 20 yards right of your target, which is where the stick is, and you're making that ball curve right back onto your target line, well, then you know your path is the correct amount into out for where your face is aimed and the shot you're trying to hit. So again, you can scale it. Play the game of Goldilocks. I'm over hooking it to the left. My ball's on line, but I'm hitting a massive hook. Well, let me swing less into out. Let me make the porridge a little bit colder. Keep making it colder to where you swing more and more and more in line with your club face until eventually that ball starts falling on your target line. Or perhaps it's the other way. Maybe you're getting the ball to draw, but not enough. Make the porridge more hot. Swing even more and more and more into out until eventually that ball curves all the way back to your target line, and now your path is where you want it to be for the shot you're playing. So again, if you can pay attention to your start line and pay attention to your start line, the direction your ball is curving and how much it's curving, you can start to scale how much you need to change your path to create the shot shape you want. One other thing I'll say about that is I think everybody wants to hit the ball straight. I don't mean accurate. Obviously, we want to hit it accurate. That's important, is accuracy. But I mean actually people want to hit the ball straight. I'm not going to say straight is bad, but I am going to say all things being equal, straight is maybe the worst shot shape we can have in golf, except for the extreme outliers. Hitting a massive hook and hitting a massive slice, that's worse. But between hitting a normal draw and hitting a normal fade, the straight shot, generally speaking, is the worser shot. Now, why is that? Because it's virtually impossible to hit a dead straight shot when we play golf. Ben Hogan said it himself. The ball's going to curve one way or another. You might as well choose which way it's going to curve before you hit it instead of just throwing it up there for luck. So when we understand that, well, first off, let me give you another example. I've hit literally hundreds of thousands of golf balls on launch monitors in my life. The amount of times I've seen the launch monitor say 0.0 for my club face and 0.0 for side spin is literally less than 5 times. I've almost never seen it. It's extremely, extremely rare that I've seen it. I take note of it when I see it because that's how rare it is. Now, why is it so rare? Because we have 3 things going on and they're extremely sensitive in order for our ball to have exactly 0 curvature. Number 1, our club face has to be dead dick square to wherever we're trying to hit our golf ball. In this example, we'll say it's straight to the flagstick. So my club face has to be absolutely dead straight to the flagstick when I make contact with it. That's checkpoint number 1. I have to get through that hurdle. Checkpoint number 2, my path. The combination of swing direction, angle of attack, and VSP, the overall path we're looking at, has to be exactly square to the target when I come to impact. It can't be 1/10 of a degree right. It can't be 1/100th of a degree left. It has to be 0.00 right when I make contact with the golf ball in order for that ball to fly straight. That's hurdle number 2. Very tough to pair both those together. Hurdle number 3, I have to make sure I have 0 gear effect when I hit this golf club. I can't afford to hit the ball any bit towards the toe. I can't afford to hit the ball any bit towards the heel. I can't afford to have the club snag on the ground or on the blades of grass before I get into the golf ball, because I can twist my face closed, or if I'm hitting the ball on the side of the club face one way or another, the ball is going to have side spin because of that gear effect. So I have to make dead flush contact, uninterfered contact, perfectly square face, perfectly square path. The odds that all of those stars align perfectly when I hit a golf shot is near 0. Again, I've only done it maybe 5 times in my life. I'm not Scotty Scheffler. I'm not Tiger Woods. I'm not saying there's people out there who can't do it better than me. There definitely are. If I was one of them, I'd be on tour, sayonara. But I'm not one of those players. But I am a pretty good player. At one point, I've been a +6 handicap, so I'm not a chop, okay? Point being is it's almost impossible to hit a dead straight shot. So if we can accept that before we even hit a shot, then we can say, okay, it's much better to create a curvature, even if it's a slight one, even if it's only a 5-yard fade or a 10-yard draw, something very tight. Creating a curvature is better than just trying to hit a perfectly straight golf ball. Why is that? Because if we understand it's impossible to have zeros and cross the border, it's so unlikely we can essentially call it impossible. Well, what happens if I'm trying to hit a straight ball? I have to aim exactly the target because that's what my intent is, right? I'm trying to hit this thing perfectly straight. But if I know I'm not going to hit it dead straight because of just the odds are not in the favor of it, well, what's going to happen when I aim straight at the target but the ball doesn't fly dead straight, even if it only curves a couple yards offline or it curves way offline? Well, my ball is always going to umbrella away from the target. Either I have my face closed, or I have a hook spin on it to the left, or I have gear spin to the left, or maybe it's to the right, but I'm always trying to aim at my target. My ball is always moving away from it. It's never moving towards it. So that's why curvature is better, even if it's a very small amount of curvature. I'm not saying play hooks and slices, even if it's only a couple yard draw or fade. If we can aim slightly away from the target, one way or another, whatever degree that is, again, within reason, guess what we get to do? We can try and build a pattern of hitting draws or hitting fades, and because we're aiming slightly to the side, we get to make that ball work towards the target instead of starting at the target and having it umbrella away from it. That's why having some form of curvature, even if it's very small, is extremely important. Think about hitting fairways too. You basically cut your fairways in half. Let's say we have a 40-yard wide fairway as we're trying to hit into it. Well, again, if we aim straight up the middle, but we don't know which way the ball is going to go, because we've aimed in the middle, the halfway point, basically once that ball starts curving sideways, we only have 20 yards of space to work with. Yes, the fairway is 40 yards long, but because we have no predictability of the way the ball is going to go, we really only have a 20-yard wedge for a ball to curve before it runs out of room. When we're creating a curvature, whether it's a draw or a fade, if I aim towards the left side of the fairway, let's say I aim let's say I aim at the left edge of the fairway, the left rough, right where the left rough and the fairway meet. Well, guess what? If that fairway is 40 yards wide and I'm cutting the ball into it, I have that entire 40 yards for my ball to swoop into the fairway before it runs out of real estate, versus when I aim up the middle, I only have that 20-yard wedge to work with. Because again, it's going to have to go one way or another, and I've cut my distance in half by aiming up the middle. Maybe you don't want to play a 20-yard cut. Maybe you only want to play a 10-yard cut or a 10-yard draw. Well, same principle. If I aim 10 yards left of the middle of the fairway, I still have a 30-yard wedge for my ball to work into. So I'm opening up the size of my target area because I'm creating a curvature and I'm working it into my target. I'm not working it away from my target. So the moral of the story is this. Before we even start working on correcting our path, we want to know what direction we're working towards. Do we want to be a drawer or a fader? We don't need to hit hooks or slices. I would not recommend that at all. But try and live on one side of the street or the other, because it's much more predictable and we actually have a chance of moving our ball towards the target as opposed to being away from it. Now that we understand that, because that's a very important point, what have we talked about so far? Quick review, because we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole that was important. Our face, aka where our face is pointed at impact, is going to determine our start line. Our path relative to our face is going to tell us how the ball is curving. Now we need to get good at controlling those things. So the first thing I would do is determine what shot shape you want to hit. Do you want to be a drawer or do you want to be a fader? Well, let's say you want to be a drawer. You can just flip this around if you want to be a fader. Either one's good. Let's say you want to be a drawer. Well, what I would do is I would take a stick, set it up so it's about 5 feet out, 7 feet out in front of my golf ball, far enough to where I can't hit it with my swing, and set that stick so it's directly between your golf ball and the target in the distance. Now, if you want to hit a draw, every ball for a right-handed golfer should start to the right of this stick. Why? Because it needs to start to the right if it's going to curve back to the target. So first, train yourself to get the alignment you need to start the ball over there, and learn to make every ball start on the correct side so we have a decent sense of where our club face is. From there, refine it. Try and get your ball to start closer and closer and closer to the stick without ever hitting the stick or without ever starting it to the left. Now you're getting a good sense of where your club face is. Once you have a sense of squaring up the club face, now we have the opportunity of making our path get better. If we don't have control of our face and we don't have control of our start line, it almost is irrelevant what we do with our path because our face is too unpredictable. Once the face gets predictable, then we can have a face-to-path relationship that also becomes predictable. So number one, learn to always start the ball to the right of the stick when you're hitting a draw. If you want to hit a fade, same principle, but start everyone to the left. Now, from there, you start to scale it. You start to say, okay, I tend to overhook the golf ball. Well, that means your path is starting to get too far to the right. Learn to swing more in line with your body or closer to the target so your path isn't so far into out. If you tend to undercurve it, you need to make your path get more exaggerated to the right. Vice versa when hitting a fade. So that's the first place to start. Now, once you get good at controlling your start line and you have a sense of I need to swing more into out or I need to swing less into out, whichever the problem is, now you can start to introduce actual drills. That's what I have this over here for. You can say, okay, I can learn to swing around sticks, whether I want to do it in the downswing or the follow through. I'll show you how to do it in both. But basically what you can do is you can take a stick that's going to be roughly at the same angle as your shafted address. So if this is my shafted address, I know this isn't perfectly in line with it. We'll kick it over here just to make it a little bit better. But you can basically take a stick, make it in line with your shafted address or as close as you can possibly get it, and set it up so it's about 8 inches to the outside over here. Now, if it's on the outside, and the stick is about 2 to 3 feet behind you in this direction, guess what this is going to force you to do? If the stick's set up right here, this is going to force you to swing more underneath the stick, and now it's going to create more of a draw pattern in this direction. So if you set up with the stick behind you and to the outside, that's going to force you to swing underneath the stick. Now we swing more into out, hitting a bigger draw. If we want to hit less of a draw or we want to create more of a fade, we do the same principle, but instead of having it about 8 inches to the outside over here, we now pull it about 8 inches to the inside in this direction. Now what do? We do the opposite thing. Instead of hitting the stick or swinging underneath it, we make sure we're staying more on top of the stick, and now our path is going to get more left. That's going to make us hit more of a fade, or if we're a drawer, it's going to make us hit less of a draw because that club isn't dropping as far to the inside and swinging as far into out. So again, setting up the drill like this is going to be for more of a draw or less of a fade, and setting it up back here is going to be for more of a fade or less of a draw. Now, we can do this in the follow through as well. Let's say we're swinging towards the same target. we can set this stick up in the follow through and say, okay, as we're coming through, let's say I'm hitting too much of a draw right now. Well, what I can do is if I want to make my draw be even less, I set up with that stick, again, same angle as my shaft, about 7-8 inches to the outside, a couple feet in front of me now, and I can work on swinging underneath this stick. That's going to force my path to start swinging more to the left, which means I'm going to hit less of a hook. I'm starting to neutralize my path a little bit. Or if I want to hit less of a slice or more of a draw, again, do the same thing, but now I put it to the inside. I say the same angle as my shaft, a few inches, 7-8 inches to the inside, and I make sure I'm exiting over this stick because that's going to force me to swing more into out. More into out is bigger draws or less of a fade. So again, you get to choose which side you want it to be on, but by avoiding a stick like that, that's probably the easiest and best way, and I'd say probably the thing that most tour players do when their swing starts to get off on tour. That's probably the best way to start shifting your path one way or another, because if you have something you avoid, you're going to get direct feedback whether you avoided it or not. But also, because there's something with real consequence there, it really makes our body want to change patterns because nobody wants to hit that stick. It's a scary thing to do to hit that stick. So it's a good drill to practice. The final thing I'll leave you with this. I've already talked about it before, but it's a good thing to talk about. Tiger, early in his career, used to hit an equal amount of draws and fades. Why? Because if you hit an equal amount of draws and fades in straight shots, well, draws get your path right, fades get your path left, neutral swings or straight shots get your path very neutral. If you hit an equal amount of them, not only are you learning to curve the ball both ways for when you need it, but it's also for your regular swing making your path more neutral. I'd encourage you to hit a healthy amount of both, and then instead of hitting the ball dead straight, again, choose one side of the street to live on. Live a little bit as a drawer, live a little bit as a fader. You got to choose how much you want the ball to curve, but live on one side of the street or another. But practice a pretty decent amount of both just to make sure your swing isn't getting too extreme one way or too extreme the other. And now you're going to have really good control of your path.